Welcome to the Med Spa Method. I'm your host, Leslie Schweitzer. I'm a doctorate-prepared nurse anesthetist. I started my own medical spa in 2022 called Lush Aesthetic Bar. Over the past 4 years, the spa has been through a couple of transitions, and it's now called Lush Aesthetics and Wellness. These episodes are your guide to med spa treatments and wellness. Many of the episodes are just me talking about something I'm passionate about, but along the way, I will feature some guests that will bring value to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Med Spa Method. I'm your host, Leslie Schweitzer. I'm a doctorate-prepared nurse anesthetist, and I'm the owner of Lush Aesthetics and Wellness. And today I want to talk about what really happens when you stop taking a GLP medication. As a provider who has a GLP program, and I have a program that doesn't include GLPs, I hear all the time from people, well, what's going to happen if I stop the medication? And I want to make this episode to address all these questions that you have. I bring these questions get brought to me all the time with my patients, and I do address them individually each time, but I feel like the information should still get out there. So whether you're taking semaglutide or tirzepatide, or even one of the glucagon-like peptides that are off the American market, they all have similar attributes. And one of the big concerns that is going to happen anytime you're worried, anytime you're coming off one of these meds, one of the biggest concerns is going to be what happens if you gain all that weight right back, right? You've spent a lot of money over the past year losing this weight, you're feeling great, but you don't want to spend this money for your whole life, or you don't want to have to plan your life around your weekly shot. It's totally understandable. Maybe you're worried that you'll go back to being hungry all the time again. Maybe you're worried that you can't afford the medicine. You're worried that the inflammation that's finally at bay is going to come back. Let's talk about all of that. The answer is, it depends. Not everybody is going to have the same plan. Not everybody is going to be able to just stop the medicine altogether. It's going to be different for different people. It's going to be based on the other aspects of your health and of your plan. So before we're talking about simply stopping the medication, I want to go through what realistically happens when you stop the medicine, how people get into the problem of regaining the weight, how others are able to maintain their incredible success, and most importantly, what you can do to give yourself the absolute best chance of keeping the weight off long term. So first, to understand this, we have to talk about what these meds actually do. A lot of people think that these meds just take away your appetite and that's all they're supposed to do. And in fact, if they have an appetite, something must be wrong. If I'm hungry, something must be wrong. I must need more of the medicine, or the medicine isn't working for me, and that's a myth. The medicines also do not burn fat. So taking the medicine is not what is burning the fat. Your body is doing the work to have the fat melt away. It's not happening from the shot itself. So what we're doing is we're changing how your body actually works. They're working in the stomach to slow the gastric emptying. So normally when you would eat a meal, your body releases all these digestive acids and the meal starts to be broken down and sent out of your stomach and into the small intestine and then into the large intestine. These drugs slow that whole process down. So they're not leaving your stomach as fast, they're not leaving your small intestine as fast, they're not leaving your large intestine as fast. Doing that helps you to stay fuller longer because your stomach is just not emptying as fast. They also work in your brain, and what's going to happen in your brain is they're going to reduce hunger. This is where people get the feeling of, hey, the food noise is finally gone. It's because these meds are telling your brain you don't need to snack all the time. That's decreasing your cravings, and that has been such a big game changer for people who have struggled with their relationship with food for their whole life or part of their life. If they have struggled with it, this drug helps you get a grasp on that like nothing we've seen before. And lastly, they help how our body responds to insulin spikes. And actually, this was the purpose of the drug in the first place. It was meant to help our body have steady insulin and glucose levels. Well, this is not the purpose, but this was the reason the drug was initially approved for use, was for diabetes, so that we could manage the insulin and glucose levels throughout the day, which is otherwise gone a bit haywire in patients who have diabetes. So we use this to our advantage as well in the weight loss world, because when you are no longer spiking insulin and glucose, you are not storing fat all day long. You're having a steady level of insulin and glucose so that you are not storing a little bit all for later. We can just burn the food that we have in our system instead and let the rest go away, not be placed into storage around your belly for later. So now that we've talked about how the drugs work, let's talk about how you can work so that you can maintain your results after you stop taking the drugs. At this time, when you're taking the medication, you often don't have that same food noise. You're not thinking about, what should I eat? I just had lunch, is it time yet for a snack? Maybe I deserve this. I'll just try a handful. There's not none of that, but that's all decreased. So during this time, when all of that food noise is decreased, it's time to, instead of saying, this is the first time I don't have to focus on food, you should flip that around to, this is the first time I can focus on food. Meaning you have the control right now to build healthier habits and get rid of those old patterns. Just because you have the control right now to walk past those bag of chips, that's not where it ends. You should instead be more intentional to plan out, what my body needs is some good protein. And since I'm not feeling super snacky right now, I can put in the work to make a nice dinner that is well-rounded, has protein on my plate, has vegetables on my plate, instead of being like the old you that was maybe, I can't wait for dinner, so I'm going to snack on chips and the kids' chicken nuggets while I'm making my dinner. If you take the time to build those good habits now, when it's time to wean off the drug, you will be set up for success because you will already be in this habit of not snacking on whatever all the time and intentionally planning your meals around things that your body needs and not what your brain wants. So let's be honest, coming off the drug, you probably will have a little bit more appetite, and food might become something that you think about a little bit more. That's why we need to put the work in a lot beforehand, so that when you come off the drug, it sounds good to you to have a cucumber as a snack. That sounds good to you because over the past year or so, while you've been on the drug, that has been your go-to snack, has been a cucumber. So you've already built up these good habits. It doesn't mean that you won't still have cravings. It just means that you'll have a better grasp and a better understanding of your body now that you've had this time on the medicine to get control of this stuff. It doesn't mean that you failed or that you need to go right back on the drug. It doesn't mean that. You can successfully come off. You just need to build those good habits beforehand. The medicine is no longer going to be on board, so you're no longer going to have your stomach stay full as longer, but there's other natural things that you can swap to that will keep your belly fuller longer, or that will make you feel satiated sooner. One of my favorite hacks is to simply have a glass of water before you start your meal. This is something you can do on or off the medicine, but if you start your meal with a full glass of water, you kind of fill up your stomach with something before you begin your meal, and you'll get fuller faster. And if that's not powerful enough for you, you could put a teaspoon of psyllium husk right in that water and fill your belly with something right before your meal. It will go down like water, but it will turn into a gelatinous substance in your belly, which will help you have that same feeling of your stomach staying fuller longer and getting fuller faster. This is kind of a time when you're on the medicine, is kind of like a time you could think of as like having training wheels on, because it's helping you to shape your dietary practices. And then when you wean off the medicine, it's like taking the training wheels off. And I realize I've said like 100 times so far, like completely coming off, weaning off all the way. Sometimes we don't wean off all the way, to be honest. We don't. Sometimes patients don't want to wean off all the way, and sometimes it's not appropriate to wean off all the way. Sometimes we're talking about just weaning down to a very small dose, and that's appropriate. It keeps your inflammation at bay. You still have a little bit more hunger than you did before, but you're at your goal weight now, and you just need a little bit to help you keep your edge and keep the inflammation low. That's fine. That's also what I'm talking about when I'm saying weaning off, is because we're weaning down, we're using way less of it, and we're using those training wheels way less. The medication itself isn't a lifestyle, is what I'm getting at. The medication itself is the training wheels. It's the helper. It's something that is a tool that can help you get where you want to be, but it's not what's doing the work. You're doing the work. And so you shouldn't feel like I've been taking this med, so I'm a cheater. I've been taking this med and I would never be down to my goal weight without this med. Yes, the med did help you, but you took the med. You made the investment in your lifestyle with your choices and with your wallet. And I feel like that should be celebrated in its own way. That, hey, I value myself enough that I was able to open my wallet, invest the time with us. We have a once a month appointment to come in and talk about these things, talk about these struggles, talk about getting off the meds, talk about med dosing, dietary, etc. So you've made that time investment, a time investment for a once a month appointment, the wallet investment, and the investment in your home, in your kitchen, in your lifestyle, where you've changed all of these things. So that is a tool and it's not a crutch, and you shouldn't feel ashamed of that. Now, some people will come off the med completely and regain weight, or they'll even wean down improperly and they will regain weight. Some of the reasons are if the weaning was done too fast or improperly. Cold turkey, hey, got to my goal weight, don't want to spend this money anymore, I'm just going to stop taking this. That's not going to work. Most people who do that, cold turkey, get to their goal weight, cold turkey, stop. Those people are regaining something like 20% of their weight back really quickly. And that's just because your body is experiencing a little bit of whiplash and is not sure what to do. Another reason is even when we wean a little bit too fast, that we have lost some muscle along the way. If you weren't prioritizing protein, doing any resistance training, you will be losing some muscle. And muscle is metabolically active tissue. It's burning calories all day long. So if you become very low on your muscle, then you've actually reduced the amount of calories that you're burning. And then let's say you're putting the same amount of calories in. All of a sudden, that equation doesn't make sense anymore. Another reason people regain weight once we take the medicine away is that we never changed the habits in the first place. Before you were taking the meds, you were doing something like having, a sugary cup of coffee and a donut for breakfast, and then, lunch was maybe skipped, or lunch was something quick at the office, and then on the way home you grabbed takeout and that was it. Or maybe you were a late night snacker, or maybe you were someone that skipped breakfast and then became ravenous by lunchtime and were eating whatever, you could order into the office, or eating the chicken nuggets and the mac and cheese that you were serving your toddlers. If we don't change those habits while we're using the medicine as a tool, then when you're on the medicine, you simply eat less of those items because you get full faster and it's easier to say no to them sometimes, and you're losing weight. But then we take the med away and we never made any changes, so you just go right back to what you were doing. That's why habit building during your time of being on the medication is so incredibly important, because you won't always have, if that's your plan to come off, you won't always have the medication there to do that heavy lifting for you. So we got to have habits that do the heavy lifting for us. So that's why we don't believe that your appointment should be just about injections. When you come in to our office, our goal is not to help you lose your weight as fast as you can and then come off the drug like lickety split and go. Our goal is actually to make you healthy for years and years and years. So what we want to do is we want to see our patients once a month. We want to talk about the hurdles and the things that are going on personally for them, and personalize their dosing, personalize their nutrition plan. And so sometimes what that looks like for us is that you come in and you get started and then your follow-ups are with a nurse or just a weight check with one of our CNAs. Maybe that's all you're doing, but maybe your plan also involves our nutrition counselor. All of your appointments might be with a nurse because things are a little bit more complex, or an advanced practice nurse. Either way, you're coming in and you're getting solid care that's personalized to you. Your plan might need lab work. We might need to dial in your blood pressure, which is something that we can also do. We might need to dial in, your macros or something with the nutritionist. We might need to put you on a strict plan and teach you how to grocery shop, build some balanced meals, or navigate restaurants, holidays, vacations, emotional eating, your busy schedule. These are lifelong skills that aren't necessarily taught in other aspects of our life. So that's why our program is so heavily structured on building really good goals so that we can wean you down or completely off the medication, and you will have spent many months practicing good habits. With the medicine on board, your appetite is controlled. It's way easier to continue using those good habits that you have already built and maintain your weight loss. Another thing that we do that helps a lot of people with their weight loss is food sensitivity testing. I've seen a lot of negative stuff out there on the internet about people who do not believe in food sensitivity testing and its benefits, but I can tell you from our practice, we see many patients reducing the triggering foods in their diet and experience way less bloating, better energy, better digestion, and just feeling better, losing weight faster, and the healthier habits come easier when you're feeling better. So it's not about creating a restrictive lifestyle. It's about instead finding the appropriate swaps for you, for your body, so that you can lose weight and keep the weight off. We also have a couple of structured prescription diet plans. Now, these would come from an advanced practice nurse like myself, or we have 2 others on our team. And these prescription diet plans are something that you would do for 1 week or 1 month to push through a stall that you're having, help you get a grip on weaning, help you get a grip on weight loss, push through a plateau. This isn't a rapid weight loss or a fad diet. Instead, it is a strategic way of getting the nutrients that your body needs. So these are not one size fits all. These are not, if you stall, then you're going to be told that you need to have, a 48-hour water fast. That's not what we do for everybody. We look at your individual problem and say, you need to have a high protein and otherwise fasted week. And this is what we need to do to maintain your muscle and lose some fat here. Or you're struggling to wean. This is what we need to do. We need to increase your fiber, and this is how we're going to get you there. So these prescription diet plans are something that isn't about rapid weight loss. The goal is actually to teach your body and your brain how to eat in a certain way to protect your muscle and create a sustainable habit that can move into a lifelong change. Because your 20-pound weight loss is wonderful, but keeping that 20-pound weight loss off for 5 years is even better. The number one problem that I see with weaning is stopping the medicine overnight. As I mentioned before, just stopping that cold turkey. It feels like, hey, I don't want to spend this money anymore, so I'm going to just stop taking it. Or I just don't want to take the shot with me. I'm going on a 3-week trip to whatever, Europe, and I just don't want to take it with me, so I'm just going to skip for 3 weeks and everything's going to be fine. That's not going to be everything's going to be fine. Your body's going to have a little bit of whiplash from something like that, and you're going to regain a little bit of weight, and you'll probably feel a little bit frustrated when that happens. As long as you've developed routines and you've got some good structure there, your weight regain after a rapid stopping of the medication is there. You're not going to regain as much as somebody who didn't do the work beforehand, but it's still not a proper weaning practice. So we still want to circle back to properly weaning off the medication. And what that means is coming off the medication slowly and controlled and making sure we're dialing in all of those habits along the way while we are slowly decreasing the goal and getting down to either nothing or a very low maintenance dose. A very low maintenance dose in our world at Lush Aesthetics is not a zero support. That's a misconception. Patients often think they're going to stay on the full dose forever or they're just going to stop completely, and those are not the only two options. There's a lot going on in between. Many of our patients do very well just maintaining their results on a very low dose. The thing is that now that they've figured out, because we've worked with them so closely, they figured out what they should be eating, what they should not be eating, how they should be eating, how they should be working out. Most of that is all kind of figured out. So at this point, we move to checking in with our patients every 3 to 6 months, kind of dependent upon what they need, their goals, their weight history, their metabolic health, and touching base with them. At that point, they're just getting their medication on a refill basis, and we're checking in on them, kind of as needed. When problems arise, we still revert right back to how we structured the program in the first place. We still come right back to diet, lifestyle, nutrition, maybe checking on a couple of labs to just see where they need to be. Weight management is not one size fits all, is what I'm saying here. Weight management is something that is going to be highly personalized to each person, and their goals along the way might even change along the way. So before I stop, I just want to encourage all of you to focus on a couple of things before you think about weaning or stopping the medicine. First, make sure that there's protein in every meal that you eat. So protein should be the center of your plate, is what I like to say to my patients. And the reason that is because I don't want you to lose muscle. And by putting protein in your body, we're going to do our best to preserve muscle and nourish your muscles as well. So protein in the center of every meal, or make sure that you've got protein in every meal. Second, I want you to think about strength training. I've told many of my patients, forget about going for that run. I mean, that's great that you do that, but let's instead focus on doing a few things for strength training. Can you just get a single kettlebell and do some kettlebell workouts? That doesn't take up a lot of space. Get a couple of dumbbells. There's so much that you can do in your home, in your living room, with a set of dumbbells 3 times a week to preserve those muscles. The next thing I want you to start focusing on is developing routines so that you're kind of stuck that way. And those routines that we often focus on is drinking that glass of water before the beginning of every meal, putting that protein in the center of your plate, making sure that you're getting protein and water are huge in weight maintenance. And the next thing I tell people to focus on is veggies. Let's make sure that we're getting protein in every meal, we're getting a glass of water at the beginning of each meal, and we're putting some veggies on your plate. And then next, I want you to understand what triggers you with your diet. Are you a person who eats because you're stressed or eats because you're bored? Or is your downfall that if you go to social events, you tend to overeat at those social events because the food is so delicious? Or are you a late night snacker? Are you a mom who snacks on her kids' snacks? Let's figure out what your trigger is and then find a simple solution to remove that trigger from your life. Maybe if you're a person who stress eats, maybe you teach yourself to be a person who stress drinks tea. Or, fill up a giant water bottle, and when you're stressed, just tell yourself, I've got to drink this whole water bottle before I have the popcorn or whatever it is, something like that. And lastly, you need some accountability. Oftentimes, we have patients who want to keep their weight loss journey secret, and that's because of a lot of these negative connotations out there around using weight loss medications to lose weight, that you're cheating, or that you're buying your weight loss or whatever it is. So if you want us to be your accountability, we will do that for you. But maybe your accountability might come from your partner, your spouse, your best friend, the person you're working out with, whoever that is. We want you to have someone that you can talk to about this. And that's why we have monthly meetings with our patients, is because we want to be able to hold them accountable as well. We want to be that resource for them. But in the case that we're not the person that holds you accountable, that's okay too. But we want you to have somebody who can support you, because we should normalize the fact that this is an option to help take the weight off of losing weight. This is a tool that we can use and be smart about it and safe about it, and it can be a wonderful, beautiful tool for a lot of people. I also want to normalize that your weight kind of fluctuates a little bit here and there. Anyways, that's going to happen now during your journey, and it's going to happen when you stop using the medicine. Everybody holds water in their body a little bit differently. Some people's, stomach empties slower. Some people don't poop as often. Hormones fluctuate. Life happens. Sometimes you eat something real salty and you end up holding on to water weight for a couple of days. Don't panic over those 3 pounds. I actually tell people all the time, don't stand on the scale every single day because you will obsess over it. Instead, worry about how you're feeling, how your clothes are fitting. So I simply want to just normalize that you're using the medicine and that your weight is fluctuating a little bit. And I want to just give you a little bit of encouragement, because success isn't measured by the fact that you don't ever increase or decrease 1 single pound. That's not success. Success is when you feel great and you don't have to worry about the scale every single day. You can go on vacation and you can make healthy choices while you're on vacation, and you don't have to worry about gaining 10 pounds of vacation weight because you know how to eat when you're on vacation. So it's not going to be a problem. So my final thoughts as I wrap up my ramblings about weaning off GLP-1 medications is that I feel like GLPs are incredible tools, and we need to remember that they are just that. They're tools. They open the door and get you where you want to be, but your habits are what's going to determine whether you stay there, whether you're able to maintain. And so that's why it's so important that we put in this work ahead of time to be able to maintain our results once you stop. Thank you so much for joining me today. I can't wait to see you next time.